What's good, everybody? I'm back in Reason 7 with a tutorial on how to chop drums. We'll be using the audio slice feature that's new in Reason 7, and we'll first of all start by opening a audio track, and we'll just go down here to the sequencer menu to verify that that's created, and then we'll want to go to import audio file, and that brings up a list of folders where I keep a lot of my drums. And we'll just go through a list of what drum break I want to choose here. As you can see, I got quite a few drum breaks. Let's see. I'll actually go for the Luigi drums here. And if you didn't get a chance to check out my drum crate video, you can see that record in that video. So now we've got them loaded up, and as you can see, we've got a drum break loaded into the sequencer window, and we want to chop this bad boy up. So let's get started. I just increased the size of the waveform there to give us a little better visual on how to chop it. We want to do some truncating now at this point, so we're going to turn off the stretch function, which is basically the time stretching feature. And now we also want to turn off the snap, because you're not going to necessarily want to snap to the grid at this point. We're going to make our chops just, at the kicks and snares and hi-hats, not at specific timeline on the sequencer. So as you can see, I kind of chopped up that first kick, and you can zoom in to get closer, more precise edit if you want. It was pretty close, but as you can see, I still have some space to truncate if I want. So let's just clean that up a little bit. And each time I truncate it and actually, drag the side of the window where the audio is, I just manually move that back to the start of the timeline in the sequencer. And then at the end of that, we're going to make it a 2-bar loop, so we're just going to trim off the end of that second part where it came in. We don't need that either. Now we're getting pretty close to getting that chopped down to a 2-bar loop. So we're going to zoom in again and clean up the end of this drum loop. And the key to really getting you could chop these without necessarily trimming it up real tight to like a 1-bar loop or a 2-bar loop, but it's just helps with setting the tempo. As far as you see, once we use the time stretch feature, it definitely kind of helps to determine like what kind of tempo you want to use for your project. So here's the end of the loop. I want to cut all that off so I don't get any pops or snaps at the end of the drum loop. And then I'll zoom back out and give it a listen. And it sounds like I still have a little bit there to clean up. So I'll zoom back in. And as you practice with chopping audio, I mean, you'll get better and faster. I haven't done this a whole lot in Reason, so just as far as zooming in and zooming out, chopping, all that will get more familiar with you as you use this feature. But, just kind of slightly drag it. You can see like there's really not much on the waveform anymore that's making that noise, but so we're pretty close to cleaning that end of that up. We just want to keep moving it a little bit until we don't hear any more pops at the end of the drum loop. It's starting to sound better. And so now I'm pretty happy with the result now. Got the beginning of the loop chopped to the first kick, and we've got the end of the loop chopped, so we can just go in and get set to loop it. So we're going to turn the stretch feature back on, and then we're going to turn our snap back on, so it will snap to the grid. Well, it will snap to the grid when we want to make this a 2-bar loop. And now we hold down the Alt Shift key, or the Alt Option key, my fault, and just drag that into our 2-bar loop range. So now we have a nice and pretty 2-bar loop, and it's time stretched, so no matter what tempo we set it to, it will play back as a continuous loop to that tempo. So right now we're around 90 ppm. Kind of like the way that sounds there. But I can also speed it up and slow it down. Show you guys that it still plays back on perfect timing. Even if we speed it up to around 110. That's probably a little too fast for what I'm trying to do with this as far as the chopping these up and making some boom bap drums, but still a nice option to have. And we can slow it down as well. Probably degrades the quality a little bit at that point, but still a nice option to have when you want to do something with a slower BPM. So we'll set it back to right around, a little under 90 BPM. And now we'll double click on the loop and bring up our transient points, which is basically like an auto chop feature. It detects all the transients and puts a marker in there for you automatically. And I just give these a listen, and one thing I've noticed with this feature is it's not real great at chopping the ends of the sample. It's pretty good at detecting the beginnings of the sample, but you get a lot of pops at the end of your samples, so I like to go in there and manually clean that up so you don't have a pop at the end of your kick or the end of your snare. I think the issue with it is it's just a little too precise, that it gets too far into that first, like the following hit, whether it's a kick or snare, and that picks up the start of that sample at the end of the previous one. So you just click on whatever marker you want to and hit the delete button, and that gets rid of it for you. And then you can just grab your pencil tool and put a line in there and draw in where you want that to be at. And as you can see, as I go through here, you can zoom in just like we did when we were initially chopping the audio, and get pretty precise on where you want to put that marker. And now I'm going to zoom in, and some of those transients I didn't even need, like when the initial kick and crash come in, it had a transient there that wasn't needed, so I took that out. But I do want to trim up the ends of the samples where I'm getting the pops. So you can just click on the marker and you can't drag it actually. That will just move the point at which uh, it's sequenced in. So you can kind of play with that as far as your timing. You can make more of a syncopated hit maybe on a snare or a kick. But as far as recycle users that are used to being able to just drag the hits uh, actually inside of Reason, you can't do that, or at least not that I know of that you can do that. So if there is a way to do that, please let me know, because I haven't learned that feature or learned how to do that yet. So I just delete that marker that I don't like and then draw in a new one. And one thing I wanted to touch on, just where one of the main things I see in comment sections on different videos about drums and in general for productions is just basically like the source of drums. And a lot of people, oh, where'd you get that drum? Where'd you get that? Where'd you get that kick? Where'd you get that snare? And I think that's the main thing. People are always looking for like a specific. Um, they just want that sound, and I think the main thing for a producer is just a beat maker is just to be creative. Make your own drum sounds. Whether that's just through getting a mic out and recording some sounds and EQing them and making your own drum sounds that way, or uh, actually sampling from vinyl and stacking your drums with different kicks, with different snares, using different processing, and creating your own drums that way. Or even if you do buy drum kits, um, make sure that you stack your drums up. Maybe add something unique to it as far as recording some of your own sounds and layering with those drums, just so you have your own distinct drum sounds. Not You don't have a drum kit that you constantly use that anybody can pay $9.99 and have the same drum sounds. I think that's where uh, people, especially in the software age, catch a bad rep, is because it's just all about um, ease of access, and it didn't used to be like that, and people um, just kind of catch a bad name for being lazy for using drum kits. And I use drum kits to some extent, but like I said, I kind of use them in the manner that I described earlier, where I always kind of put my signature um, stamp on a drum kit if I'm using a kick, especially with, I think drum kits can be useful when you're layering a low end kick with a vinyl kick, because you're definitely going to get a better low end sound out of a drum kit kick, unless you're sampling directly from like an 808 drum machine, which not too many people have access to. So I think that can be definitely a resource to use. And stacking drums is nothing new, but doing it in an effective way where you're using original sounds and making your own original sound is something that is still not everyone's doing. So that will definitely give you a leg up on the next beat maker out there if you're definitely creating your own signature drum sounds. And that's one thing I do like about Reason, as far as um, being able, once I do chop these drums up, I do put my own little sound to it just by the processing inside in the DAW. I mean, it has some great effects, uh, and you can just really create your own sound inside the software here. So I'm still cleaning up this drum break here. Maybe I'm a little too much of a perfectionist, chopping the ends of these samples. Just kind of the school of truncation I came from. Keep everything real nice and clean. You could always, chop them a little bit rough around the edges, and then once you load them up into a sampler, you could actually, whether it's the NNXT or the Kong or the redrum, you can use the linked knob in one of those samplers to just kind of chop off the end of the sample in there as well. But my thought on that is, if you know you have a good clean chop going in, there won't be any work to do later. And if you don't have the Luigi drums, I definitely recommend you guys that are diggers to try to find these drums or cop them off eBay, because it has 2 or 3 breaks on this record, and they're just some banging drums. So get your dig on, go look for Luigi, try to find the non-vocal version of the record if you can, because like I said, in the previous video I did on my drum crate, it's like a jazz dance instruction record. So like one version has like the vocals of a jazz instructor telling you like the dance steps to the music, and one version has the non-vocal version of that. So you don't want some dude telling you to take 2 steps to the right and all that on top of your drums. You'd rather get the non-vocal version. But if I remember right, that you can still pretty much sample the drums without getting too much of the vocals on your drums if you do find the other version. And anybody that has some breaks that I don't have in any of my videos, and just wanted to share that in the comment sections, let me know. I'm always up for trading for some breaks, or learning some new breaks. I don't know all breaks out there. There's probably thousands of breaks that I've never even heard of. So if you've watched my break videos, my record videos, that I'm actually still working on one. I need to get around to making the 45 crate collection, and post that in the comment section. Let me know what some of your guys' favorite drum breaks are. I'd love to read that, see what everybody else is chopping up, see everybody else's thoughts on layering drums, stacking drums, as far as, especially when you're chopping off vinyl, what people like to do. If people like to use the same kick and just kind of EQ it down, make a copy of the same kick, and then just kind of filter it out so you just get the bass and layer it that way, so you have more of a natural sounding kick with still some low end, as opposed to maybe a kick with an 808 under it that kind of sounds a little synthetic, especially if you're still going for more of a raw sound without any drum machine or cleaner drums in it. So now, I cleaned up the sample, got those pops out there, got my chop straight. So now what you want to do is select, you just click on it, Command all, select all your chops, and go down to split slices, or split at slices, whatever that said. It's down there at the bottom of the menu there. So make sure you select all the slices before you do that. And now you can see that puts all your slices into their own little box where you could actually, you know, if you wanted to stay at this point, you could actually, you know, drag them and move them around in different spots. But what I'm going to do is actually bounce these to new samples, and this will allow us to load them up into any of our samplers in Reason, any of our devices. Some people prefer to do drums in the Kong, which makes sense because it's kind of like the MPC styled virtual rack version, or some people like to do the NNXT sampler. It might have a little more features on it as far as just the attack, decay, sustain, release, some of those features. But I'm going to go with the pattern-based redrum unit. Actually, I throw it in a combinator first just to kind of keep everything clean. And I just like the redrum just for the fact that it is pattern-based, and for this tutorial, just to get something going real quick as far as you know, replaying the drums. In Kong, you kind of have to replay those. You can record by either drawing the notes in or by playing it with a MIDI controller, and that's cool. And same with the NXT, you can play that with a MIDI controller, or you can play it with, or you can draw the notes in. And redrum you can play with a MIDI controller as well, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to load these into redrum and just use the step sequencer at the bottom and just plug in a pattern that way. And all you do is click on, if you've loaded samples into redrum before, then you'll know how to do this. You'll just hit the folder button. It takes you to the menu. Over to the left hand side, you'll see a tab that says Song Samples. It will bring up you know, the unassigned sample folder is where it keeps all the chops that you just created in the sequencer from the audio file, and you just pick which ones. I'm just going to load in, you know, a full kit here, try to find the best snares, the best kicks. Usually when you're only using a bar or two, that's pretty much, you're using every chop you made. So it's not that difficult to break down which ones are my best ones. With it's pretty much every one I have. Plug the kicks and the hi-hats, and this break didn't really have an open hi-hat. It has that kind of crash at the beginning, but as far as variety as to other drum hits, it didn't really have a whole lot to work with, so it's going to be perfect for boom bap. And now you can see they're loaded inside the redrum, and I just added a 6-to-2 mixer top of that redrum. That's just kind of one of my techniques on creating a combinator. Just I like that feature to, if you want to route some different effects, you can do that, or just route some different drums to a different channel. You can do that as well. And so just do a standard snares on the 5 and 13, and go in here, find a kick I like, load the kick in, just a simple pattern to give it some swing, a little syncopation. And if you ever hear other tutorials, a lot of people talk a lot about swing, and I mean, that's cool. You know, everyone knows that kind of like that little extra syncopation, you know, before your drums don't sound so programmed. And that's one thing I love about using sample drums, is the fact that a lot of times when you use sample drums, that syncopation is kind of already built in there, especially if you're just kind of replaying the break as opposed to you know, chopping it up, kind of like I'm doing now. I'm just kind of chopping it up and replaying it, but more in a programmed sense. But if you maybe instead of bouncing the samples into new samples, you can bounce them into a Rex file and basically just replay those samples. And I mean, a lot of times you don't even have to worry about swing when you're using sampled drums because they already have that natural swing in there. But I mean, a lot of times you can still add your own swing to them by just the way you kind of offset the kicks a little bit. You know, maybe move the hi-hats a little bit so they're not right on time. You can still do all that too, as you would with just standard drum kit, drum one-shots. So that's just something to think about if you're not currently using a lot of drum breaks for samples. So now I got a little drum break pattern going. You know, definitely has a little more, you know, boom boom bap feel to it than the original break. And I'm going to just add a maximizer, and one of my weapons of choice here, a little secret I like to use on my drums, is the Scream 4. And with a name like Scream 4, you're probably not thinking that's you know, something you usually use with drums, but it has some settings on it that just really give your drums a good feel to it. And just if you hold the shift button when you load those in, they're not pre-routed. So I just load the mixer out into the scream out into the maximizer, and the out of the maximizer back into the combinator. And you can tell definitely adds to the drums, but we're not going to be using that setting, so I'll tell you which one we will be using. You want to make sure you hit that the replay button, the run button on the redrum, so when you do play that, or that's once you load the track into the sequencer, to turn off the redrum so you don't have both versions playing. So I put the Scream on the tape setting, and then just kind of play around with the P1 and P2 knobs. The middle parts, the cut, the EQ, you know, just tweak those to, you know, what sound you want. Since we're not really layering these drums, or at least at this point we're not, you know, I'll kind of boost the low a little bit, give the kicks a little more bass, keep the mids right about where they're at. And I like that hi-hat in this break, so I really want that to kind of be accented, nice planky hi-hat. And then over in the body section, you have this just different settings, A, B, C, D, and E. And if you can just flip through those and just kind of see if you like any of the settings. I personally prefer E a lot of times, but just whatever kind of sound you're going for. Some of those had more of a phasing sound, some of them had more of a filtered sound, so that might be what you're going for in a certain track. And now you can definitely hear the break is changed a lot. It's taken on that tape analog sound, give it some warmth, give it some bass. I would normally probably go in and add an EQ the drums individually as well, but just for the sake of this tutorial, I'll skip that process. Then use the copies pattern to track, and that's where you can go in the tool window as well and explode the note lanes into their own, puts each individual drum hit into their own lane, which is easier for when you want to edit and mix up the, you know, maybe do a fill or a breakdown or whatever. You have each drum hit their own lane. And at this point, it's where you want to go in and turn off the redrum and not have it playing back when you're trying to listen to what's in your sequencer. You can tell I have the audio clip still in there, but it's muted. So we're not hearing that audio, we're just hearing the pattern I made in the redrum and all the effects that I did to it in the Scream. I didn't even really use the maximizer, that's just there for final mix purposes, as far as a lot of times when you use drum samples. or drum breaks. Since you're using something off of vinyl, it might not be as loud as some of the sounds inside Reason or other sounds you might use when you're making a beat. So you just want that maximizer there to kind of boost your signal. And now basically sky's the limit as far as what you want to do here. I mean, you can you know, program out the rest of the beat. I usually go and use the blocks feature and start breaking down what I want the drums to sound like in my verses, and how I want the drum pattern to be in the chorus, if it's going to switch up at all. That way I kind of know where I want to put my fills at, where I want the drums to drop out at, just all those different things. I'm going to add a little MPC swing to one of the groove mixer channels, just to give those kicks a little more swing to them, since I did program them right on the beat, that I don't want those sounding too programmed, too processed. So as you just click on that little drop down window, pull up A1, I got 63% swing on there. That just makes the kicks move a little bit more. That way they're not right on time. And I'm pretty happy with the end result. I hope this tutorial was able to help. If so, give a like and subscribe. Check out my other videos. And thanks for watching. Peace.